John is mentioned in all the Gospels, where we see that he has a high profile and significant ministry before Jesus was widely known, to the extent that the people of Israel wondered if John was the long-promised Messiah. But he was always very clear that he was not, that his role was to prepare the way for God's Messiah, who he identified as Jesus. And in these verses we see John's disciples come to him and say, look, Jesus has started to baptize, and everyone is going over to him. And John's response is pretty much, yes, that's how it needs to be. And he explains it by saying, a person can only receive what is given to them from heaven. And John had received from heaven. He'd received a responsibility to prepare the way for God's promised Messiah. And he'd received the grace and gifting to do that effectively. But he recognizes now that that season is coming to a conclusion, and his role in God's scheme of things is changing. May I extrapolate from that and suggest that we also will have different seasons in our lives when we receive responsibility from God and grace for that specific phase of life. God knows what we need for the different seasons he leads us into. When we're young, we know a certain grace from God, which is different, I suggest, from the grace that we receive when we're older. And a line from the Jewish prophet Isaiah talks about God gently leading those who have young, speaking of a special grace towards those with parenting responsibilities. And sometimes, like John, we will receive a specific calling from God and the grace to fulfill that. So whatever season we are currently in, may we be clear that God knows what we need and that he's giving us grace for this time.